NXT Revenge Week 2 took place tonight in Orlando, Florida at the WWE Performance Center. We got a cool opening video package for Revenge. I still feel they could have done this show in Las Vegas, as WrestleMania week's over now. They're out of Las Vegas. I think this show would have worked there because they had most of the NXT talent in Las Vegas for WrestleMania weekend. I think they could have booked a show at like Park MGM and done an NXT there. I think it would have worked. But they went back to Orlando. Must have been tough to fly back that quickly though. Because, I was just thinking the two women in the main event tonight, Zari and Sol Ruka, were just on Raw in Las Vegas last night. I think they could have at least done one NXT show during WrestleMania weekend, just so NXT can have some presence. I guess there was NXT talent during WWE World. They wrestled there, but there was no NXT show during WrestleMania weekend, and that hasn't happened in so long. I think it's unfortunate that they didn't do it this year, but we had Miles Bourne coming out to start the show. Darkseid was out next. We get the NXT North American Championship. If you can tell in my voice, I'm not that enthused. Miles Bourne and Dion Lennox, I hate Darkseid. Match was decent, though. Darkseid interfered, it blew up in their face, and costed Dion the match. Miles retains. Blake Monroe was with the Vanity Project backstage. Then we see both Joe Hendry and Keanu Carver heading to the ring. Saquon, he was backstage. Darkseid was arguing. Dion Lennox and Saquon especially. Saquon asked Darkseid for another chance. Then Charlotte Hill talked to Tatum Paxley. They were backstage, sitting there by production boxes, and Charlotte says he's going to face Ricky Saints next week. So I guess Ricky's staying in NXT. I think he should just go to the main roster. I don't think Ricky has anything left in NXT. He's been he was okay as a babyface, but ever since he's turned heel, it's just been a total flop, especially after that disastrous concert a couple months ago. Joe Hendry was out next, and Carver comes out. The guy they want to push down our fucking throats. What do they see in this guy, Keanu Carver? There's just nothing to him. I don't find him that intimidating. He looks whatever. He just doesn't look that scary to me. He looks like some football guy from NIL athlete that they have. He's athletic. I mean, what is about him? Why are they giving him this giant push? I don't understand it. I'm not intimidated by him at all. I don't think he has a shoot background, like a shooter MMA background type. I don't think he has that. Why? And then we get Joe Hendry and Keanu Carver. Of course, Keanu Carver won. Joe Hendry's going to Raw next week. He's on the main roster starting next Monday. And then Carver won, overrated. Joe has a contract next week, so no, nothing really. There's nothing to this guy. I didn't give a shit about this match. We had an NXT spotlight on Lizzie Rain. Birthright was out next. After the break, EK Prosper was out. And we get the WWE Speed Championship, Lexus King against EK Prosper. So Birthright interfered, allowing Lexus to win the match. We get an Instagram video on Jackson Drake being stood up. This was the dumbest fucking segment of the night. I didn't understand what the fuck this was. They're really messing with the Vanity Project now. Are they going to add some I don't want to be mean, some overweight woman to them? It's no, they're three pretty boys. They like Blake Monroe. They talked to Lola Vice one time. It's what they want. They want hot chicks. For them to be with an overweight woman, it doesn't work. It's bad sitcom writing. They're just good douchebag pretty boy heels. I don't understand this. We have Blake Monroe was out next, and I loved it because she was dressed in all black for a funeral. She was actually dressed like a widow would be. And then this was actually the first casket match for a championship title since the Royal Rumble in 1998, which ironically had the current NXT booker Shawn Michaels defending the WWF Championship at the time against The Undertaker, in which Shawn won, thanks to interference from Kane. But Darkseid was backstage. They will have a rematch. Sugars will instead get the shot. And then Tatum Paxley was out next, also in all black. And we get the NXT Women's North American Championship. Tatum Paxley brought her belt to the ring while Blake Monroe still had her title belt with her. And NXT Women's North American Championship defended in a casket match. Tatum Paxley defending her title against Blake Monroe. So I'm really happy we got to see the casket. I miss the old school casket setup. So since The Undertaker retired, I can't recall the last casket match we got in WWE. And that's the one unfortunate thing. Since his retirement, he brought all these great gimmick matches to the WWE that they just don't use anymore post Undertaker. The casket match. Always a fan of that. Buried Alive match. The Last Ride match. Those are 3 Undertaker gimmick matches. And they really don't use those matches anymore. I kind of wish they would. But I do miss the old school Casket. We got to see that classic Casket look again. It's been so long. Brings me back to a different time in WWE. It brings me back to like when they would use them in the 90s, man. Pretty cool. So Tatum pulled out a dollhouse, which was funny, but then Blake drop-kicked her into it, and Tatum took a bump onto the dollhouse. Both women fell in the Casket early on, and it closed, but like no one could win because they were both in it, so no one won. There was a Spanish fly. I think Tatum hit to Blake on the floor from the Casket, which looked good. Blake dumped, there was a pillowcase in the Casket, and Blake put the pillowcase in the ring, and she poured it out into the ring, and it was full of diamonds. And there was actually a spot earlier where Blake had Tatum in the Casket, but Tatum used Blake's title belt that she brought with her to keep it from closing all the way. But going back to the diamonds, Tatum hit the cemetery drive onto the diamonds, to Blake Monroe on the diamonds, so she took a bump. Then I think she kicked Blake Monroe into the Casket. Tatum Paxley then shuts the door and puts Blake Monroe in the Casket. And Tatum Paxley retains the NXT Women's North American Championship. She defeats Blake Monroe once again, ends this rivalry, and I think hopefully, I wouldn't mind seeing Blake Monroe on the main roster. I don't think they used her. They did not utilize her well in NXT. She should have been the one being the NXT Women's Championship, being the NXT Women's Champion all these months. It should not have been JC Jane. It should have been Blake Monroe. But they decided not to go that route for whatever fucking reason. I wouldn't mind her just going to the main roster now because the feud with Tatum's over. She's lost the feud, and I just feel like, she could be called up. I think that's a possibility now. Probably not likely still, but I think, I would give it at least a third, like a 33% chance. But I still enjoy this matchup a lot, and Tatum gets the win here. We got a stupid Vanity Project segment I already talked about earlier. I don't like it. Lola Vice headed to the ring next. She was out, and then she talked about the division before she was interrupted by Izzy Dame and the culling. It leads to a fight. Izzy lays her out and poses with the championship. Backstage, Sarah Schreiber interviewed Lexis King and Birthright, and then EK Prosper guy wants a rematch, and then DVD also he wanted a tag match. I don't know about this segment. All I can notice really is how good Sarah looked in leather in this backstage segment. Started looking good. We got an NXT Chronicle on Kendall Gray, her growing up in Las Vegas, which was funny because they were just there. Too bad she couldn't be on an NXT show in Las Vegas. I think would have meant a lot to her, but I guess it's kind of too late for that now. Then Robert Stone was talking to Lola Vice backstage when he saw Ricky Saints attacking Shiloh Hill. They kind of did that, emergency. They always do those segments. You hear something happen, and then general manager runs with the camera, and they find something. Then they preview next week's show. Sol Ruca was out next. After the break, Robert Stone was talking to Tony D'Angelo when Keanu Carver walked by. I don't give a fuck about Keanu Carver. I hope he doesn't beat Tony D'Angelo, but he probably will with the way Shawn Michaels books this idiot. I don't know. Zarya was out next, and we get our main event, the last woman standing match, Sol Ruca versus Zarya. So early on in the match, the first weapon used was a trash can by Zarya. A kendo stick was used. Then they used a cable wire, but of course in WWE you're not allowed to choke. So I think Zarya or Sol, one of them put it around the opponent's mouth when they could have just choked them. And I think there was a trash can lid used in this match as well. I think the trash cans were one of the few weapons missing at WrestleMania this year. They used everything else, but there was the first major spot was Sol Ruca spearing Zarya through the wooden perch area, that circular structure in the crowd, which looked good. And then we went to a break, and they fought through the break, and they ended up on top of the barricade, and it's the barricade right next to the announce booth. So the announce booth has the top taken off, and Zarya now has Sol on her shoulders on the barricade in an F5 position. Zarya hits an F5 onto Sol Ruca, driving her through the announce booth. Great spot here. Looked really good. And then, but Sol survives the count. She gets up, so she didn't get counted out in the last woman standing match. Eventually, Zarya sets up 2 tables right next to the perch. And then eventually both of them end up on top of the structure. First, Sol Ruca hits the Soul Snatcher on the top, but the problem, it's not a problem, it just looks weird. There was mats laid out, and I understand, I don't want to see anyone get hurt. That's the last thing I want. But I mean, to set up fucking mats on a perch, I mean, you're making it too obvious how much of a work wrestling is when you do that. Why would there be mats set up on a freaking perch, on a structure? Why? It'd be like if there was mats set up in the crowd area. Why? I mean, mats being set up around ringside, that makes sense. But mats, I mean, anyway, Soul hit the Soul Snatcher on there. And it looked good, by the way. Just like, why would there be mats there? I couldn't get over that. Eventually, they brawl on top of the perch. And Soul was going to knock Zarya off. And Zarya was very close to being knocked off. But then Soul Ruka, in the middle of this match, refuses to let Zarya fall off, which would drive her off the perch through 2 tables. And I can get that. She doesn't want to see her friend. She still cares about her. But, I mean, just to start hugging her, that make no sense. Soul and Zarya start hugging on top of the perch in the middle of a last woman standing match. And, like, they're hugging, and then eventually they turn around, in which Soul's back is now facing the edge. And that's when Zarya just shoves Soul Ruka off, drives her through a table. It looked bad because Soul, her head almost hit the other table. She only went through one, but Soul takes the big bomb, gets counted out 1-10. Zarya wins the last woman standing match. She wins the feud with Soul Ruka, and she ends Soul Ruka's NXT career before sending her to the main roster. So Zarya with the win, the biggest win of her career easily in NXT thus far. And that was NXT Revenge Week 2. I enjoyed the last 2 matches. I really liked the Casket match and the last woman standing match. I thought both of them delivered. The other matches were just kind of there to me. It didn't really mean much to me at all, but I really did enjoy those last two women's matches. And that was Revenge, and we'll see what's next for NXT. A lot of call-ups. They're losing a lot of names, more than any time in previous history. I mean, you look at first earlier this year around the Rumble time, they lose Oba Femi, their top star, then also they lose Javon Evans and Trick Williams. Now, this round, after WrestleMania, they've already lost Ethan Page. So Ruka was gone. That was her last match tonight in NXT. And then I think, Joe Hendry we know is gone now. He's on Raw this next Monday. I think there's a good chance they could lose Ricky Saints. They could lose Blake Monroe. I think JC Jane, 100% she's gone. So they're losing a lot of names, so it's kind of a rebuilding process in NXT. Unfortunately, we're going to see teams like Darkseid continue to be pushed, even though they're fucking terrible. But it is still a significant time in NXT, and that was Revenge. So we'll see what happens next as NXT. They're going to have to start rebuilding as they're losing a lot of talent now to the main roster.